Welcome back for another episode of Strive for 25. Joel Farrell here, and looking forward to sharing with you our guest today. Welcome to another episode of the Strive for 25 podcast. I've got an amazing guest today who's in Florida, the state of Florida. I'm so jealous because it's 30 degrees here and it's not 30 degrees down there. But Jacklyn Riley, thank you so much for coming on today. And she's a realtor in the Emerald Coast area, Northwest Florida. And if you could give our guests a little bit of a background on what you do and who you're with.
Yeah, so I am Jacklyn with Emerald Coast Beach Homes. We cover the whole panhandle of Florida. So from like Pensacola all the way to like Mexico Beach. And that includes Destin and Miramar and Santa Rosa and all those awesome beaches. And it is 68 here today. So it's great, but we think it's cold. That's why I have pants on. And so mostly we do investment properties, but we sprinkle in primary homes and people who want to retire here as well. But yeah, we get to service the whole Emerald Coast with Emerald Coast Beach Homes.
Cool. On this channel, we talk about building wealth and, building wealth. How does the everyday person get ahead? And, my mind kind of just works in a unique way. I got to break things down to its simplest parts. I don't have the biggest brain out there. So I got to keep things very simple. And so, we break the wealth journey into three things: the savings equation, the investment equation, and the results equation. The savings equation, very simple: income minus your expenses equal your savings. If you don't have savings, it's very difficult to invest, right? So it starts there. The investment equation: you buy an asset, get a rate of return over a period of time, and that becomes your expected return. The results equation is, hey, I have a goal. I want to be able to accomplish something. Well, how do I get there? A lot of times it comes down to changing behavior. So those are the things that we talk about on this channel. And, with your journey, right? Like building a business, generating income, and along the way, serving and helping a lot of people purchase the biggest thing that they're probably ever going to purchase, and that's a home. That takes a lot of unique skills to be able to do that job and do it well. But I want to dig in, to your journey and how you got there. So you've been a realtor for how long now?
Not very long. I think this is my fifth full year.
Okay. So your fifth full year. And so why did you get into it? Like, how did that even become a thing in your brain? How long ago?
So I was a teacher at first. I was teaching for a little bit and I do love it. I have a master's also in education, but I was only making 20 grand a year. In the state of Florida, they don't pay teachers very well. And then on top of that, I worked at a Montessori school. So that's even like less than public school. So anyway, I was wanting to like help bring in more income because all I could pay for was like electricity. And so I was like, I need to do something. I need to find a side hustle. So I took my test for real estate. I don't even know why that popped into my head. I just thought maybe I could do this while teaching. I had no idea anything about real estate ever. Nobody in my family even talked about real estate ever either. So I just randomly got in it. And ever since I took that test, and then my broker now messaged me on Facebook and said, "Hey, it looks like you're a good agent. You want to come intro with us, or do you want to come like interview with us?" And I said, "Sure." Of course, everybody else, wants to get new agents on their team too. But the reason why I went with a smaller one is because they were small, and so I felt that I couldn't do both while teaching. So I thought that's why I went with a smaller one to begin with. But I taught and did real estate for the first 2 years. And it was very, very hard. And I didn't do that awesome because I couldn't give myself fully into one thing. And then my broker was like, "Hey, if you close," she said 15, "if you close 15 homes between now and Christmas time, will you quit at Christmas?" Because Christmas time teachers have that break. So I said, "Sure, I'll do that. I'm never going to do that." And so sure enough, we did. And she goes, "Here is your check. You need to quit now." And so I said, "Great." So that's kind of where it led. I gave in my resignation and all the parents hated me, but they understood. And ever since then, ever since then, ever since I went full into real estate, it has taken off and I've been insanely blessed.
That's awesome. So that conversation you had was in what, 2016, 2017? Like what year was that?
16,
20,
17. 17 was when I first got into it
okay. So 2017 was when you first got in.
in 23. So 16 is when I took the test.
Okay. And then that conversation with your broker at the time, that was middle of the year of 19.
Yes.
Okay. So at that point in time, how many homes had you sold in the
It
year?
was it was only about 30.
Wait, you sold 30 houses in the first half of
So
2019?
yes.
The first half of 2019, you sold 30 houses
Yes.
as a part-time agent.
Yes, because we work on a team.
But
So I
you
had
were you were involved in 30 transactions in half of the
yes.
year. Okay. Okay,
Yes.
cool. So at that time, right, like you're working as a teacher, you have this now another source of income coming in, right? That I'm sure I don't want to ever want to make somebody put numbers out there, but I'm sure a pretty large percentage of, or maybe even double or triple the money you were making on your day job, right? So you've got this confidence brewing, right? Like things are going in the right direction. You're getting more familiar with the industry and seeing the success in terms of closings and doing well. So at that point in time, when your broker had that conversation with you, what was stopping you from going all in at that point? What was stopping you from taking that leap sooner?
I was I was scared not to have like a salary because agents we only get paid if we get all the way to the closing table. And so I was afraid to not have like a set like you're going to get this every month. And so I was just afraid to let go.
No, totally. I mean, I'm in the same boat, right? I'm in the mortgage industry and it's a commission based world. So, if things are not closing, yeah, you got to figure something out. So I get it. So that that June to the end of the year, then how many transactions were you able to close along the way?
I'm really, really bad with the numbers. I just know that I at least doubled it once I quit.
Cool.
So yeah.
So and then that was 2019, right? And then you quit your job as a teacher, which I mean, to do that, and there's plenty of schooling and time that goes into that whole process to get your certifications or whatever. And then you become a full-time agent and then COVID happens, right?
Yes.
In March of 2020. So, um, going that first 4, 5, 6 months of your journey, going full time, taking the full plunge, like what was going on in your mind and your emotions with your family? Walk us through that.
So for real estate, I really didn't know what to do for anything. I literally leaned on we have our coach is Tom, not Tom Ferry, but we're in the Tom Ferry network, which is coaching. And then whatever Jessica kind of told me to do. And she said that calling, like cold calling was the best way. And so she would hand me a list of numbers to call. And all I did, because I didn't have a little baby or anything then, so I just spent hours and hours and hours and hours calling. And to get maybe two emails. And so I just did that for months. And after, like, and because I did that, like this year, all those people that I had called and I got like their emails, I was able to like list their house this year. And so they're calling me back now and be like, hey, remember when you called me and you're like pestered me last year, whatever, we're ready now. And so like all the stuff that I've done in 2022 and 2023, thankfully was because of all the hours and calls I put in back then.
That's great. Yeah, it's so crazy how some of that stuff in these industries and sales or whatever the industry is, like the work that you put in today, you don't see results for a long time. But if you
Yeah.
just keep on going, keep doing, keep staying in touch
Yep. Yep.
and relationships, and then all of a sudden things just come out of nowhere,
Yeah.
so to speak. Um, yeah, I mean, like just on my own personal journey, I've been in the business since '06. I've changed companies a few times and kind of different products and different niches, along the way. And I know there's a time in 2011, 12, and 13 that I had the same kind of thing going on where I was cold calling, getting lists and calling people and just trying to help somebody be able to save money on a refinance. And like I mean, it sucked. I hated it. Like I was working all these crazy hours, just like, going mind numbing work.
Yeah.
But like by doing it and having some success, like it gave me the confidence to be able to know that I can do anything. If I can do that, I can do anything,
Yep. Yep.
you know? So, so 2020, right? Like I know in Florida in COVID, like our business, we were busy as heck in the mortgage world in 2020 and 21. Um, so your first full year in the business, like by the end of the year, was it just crazy, just constantly going and doing deals? Like what was the first year like?
The first year, I was still kind of learning about the investment type thing. And so I'm also military. So I am an Army reservist um, on my way out because I've been in for 6 years. But I thankfully I have a lot of military contacts. And my spouse is also military, works at Eglin Air Force Base, even though we're Army. But because of all those contacts, we thankfully I'm able to help, and I know the VA loan very well because we have it and we use it as well. So the first year was a lot more primary, secondary homes with sprinkled in investment properties, and then I would say recently, and then like last year, this year was 90% all investment properties because I've learned it more, and then we have our own now, and I got more confident in it, and just I feel like I was thrown into the investment world just because of where we live too, and so I learning it. Our company also does rental management, so and then I also was I forgot another job while I was teaching and doing the real estate. I also was a property manager.
Okay.
So and my spouse hated me because literally at the end it would be 8 o'clock at night and I would be like, oh my gosh, I forgot to check this unit. And a property manager checks after the cleaners clean.
Uh,
And then I went in and then I just like made sure everything was right. And a lot of times cleaners would miss something or whatever, so I had to do it. So usually I got home around like 10. But I eventually quit because it was too much. But I'm really glad I did it because I was like in the short-term rental world for that was about it was only like about 7-ish months total that I did that. Because the short-term rental market and people who do those, props to you because it is very, very hard. Um, People call about a chip and a plate. But anyway, so I was thrown into that short-term rental investment world, which is why I'm able to help so many people now. I hope that makes sense.
no, yeah. So you do the property management stuff. You learn that part because like at the end of the day, like any business has multiple parts of it, sales, operations, like in our industry, it's like I'm in sales, I go get business. It's operations side to help make the loans go through the process. And there's always like this kind of dynamic of sales and ops not being on the same page.
Yeah,
But like if you know the short-term rental side of it, the investment side of it, the buying it, and also the back end, the actual management of it, like I can imagine having a greater level of expertise and value you can add to your clients
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Real quick, so you mentioned VA loan and also being an investor. So I I want to take a second and just kind of talk through that. So
Yeah.
you know you buy a house and then you become an investor. So like how does that all work together? What was your journey of getting that first rental and how did that work out and how did you do it?
So we bought our first house with a VA loan, but as I'm sure you know, you can't use an investment property with a VA loan. So it was our primary home, but we bought it in hopes of renting it one day, making it a short-term rental. So we looked at the location, made sure it was short-term rental approved and friendly,
Okay.
and everything. It was a townhouse. It's a close walking distance of the beach, and so we bought that with our VA loan and lived in it for 2 years. And then we refinanced and took that out of the VA loan into a conventional loan, and then bought a house with a VA loan, and that which we live in now.
Cool. Okay. I love this. I love this. I think this is so important because, you know, with prices going up, right? It's definitely pushed a lot of buyers out of the market, especially on the younger side of the curve.
Yeah.
Um, but real estate, it's not going anywhere, right? Like every single recession we've ever seen, real estate has either stayed level or even gone up, except for the 08, 09 crash, because real estate mortgages was the reason there was a recession. So that's a little bit of a different story. So real estate's not going away. It's a pathway for the everyday person to be able to get ahead and build wealth. And I give this example all the time, and I'll make this very short. 10 grand, right? If you have 10 grand and you put it in the stock market and you get a great return, 10%, that return is $1,000. Awesome year, right? That same 10 grand as a down payment on real estate, you're buying a $300,000 house, let's call it. And
Mhm.
let's say the house appreciates 3% in the first year. So 3%, that's like pretty much sticking with inflation, essentially, on average. So, well, what's that return in the first year? A lot of people will say $300 or whatever the number is, but it's $9,000. So your $300,000 price times 3%, that's your $9,000 gain. So real estate is so important for the everyday person to be able to get ahead and use the tools that are out there and know the formula. And there's data out there that says, of the not the 10%, but the 90% and below, like 60% of the wealth that's generated is because of real estate. So it's so important. So you get in a house, you buy it, and that's one of the beauties of a VA loan. You can do it with zero down, right? So
Yeah.
the barrier to entry is going to be lower than somebody that has to have a down payment.
Right.
And you're going into this with the intention of, I know that real estate is valuable. It's an important way to be able to build wealth. I'm gonna be intentionally buying in an area that I can rent it,
Right.
but more specifically, short term rent it.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
okay, okay. So, are you Okaloosa, Fort Walton? Like, which side of the area, or where are you at?
So we bought in Walton County, so Miramar Beach,
Okay,
and
okay,
bought
Miramar.
again in Miramar Beach.
Okay, cool. So you bought a townhouse. The first one was a townhouse, right?
Yes, yes.
So how far away from the water are you? Not to be specific,
It's right. It was like a
like
three
walking
minute
distance,
walk.
3 minute walk. Okay. Um, Another question out there for investors that are kind of looking at things cross state, because there's more and more investors out there looking for real estate out of state. Public beaches in that area, right? Things are changing, right? So like if I buy a rental, short term rental, what's the beach situation going on in that area?
In Miramar specifically.
Well, just if let's just take your property. Like, do you have access to a public beach, like pretty much straight, or do you have to go somewhere else for a public beach?
You have to walk. So it's not like right at the end of the road that usually people like. You have to continue, and then it's the public beach access.
Gotcha.
It does
Okay.
not have deeded beach access, which is a perk for other investment properties.
Okay. Can you explain more about what that means? Deeded beach access. What does that mean?
So some townhomes include a deeded beach access, and that means that they have a gate and their own gate, so their guests will have a code, and then they can use that code, and only them and only them can use that gate at any time to go to the beach. We do not, so we have to use a public beach access, and there's not very many in Miramar and the Destin area. There's only a couple scattered. Most of it is deeded through different condominiums, homes, or townhomes. So thankfully, we just purchased ours in walking distance to the public beach access, which is big. I'm thankful that we did that. But a lot of times when people buy, they want deeded beach access for that reason, and then you can add that to your Airbnb listing too, so they don't have to worry about parking or whatnot to get to the beach.
So, if somebody is going to use a similar strategy that you're talking about, hey, I'm going to go buy as a primary residence. I live in the area. I'm going to be very strategic of how I'm going to acquire with the intention of 5 years, 2 years, whatever down the road, turning it into a rental. Um, if you can purchase something that's geographically east west, closer to the public beach access, that could be more valuable from a renter standpoint than if you're further away, right?
I would say
Ish,
yes,
ish.
ish. If unless it's not golf cart friendly, the second biggest thing is golf cart friendly. So as long as you can golf cart to the beach, we see a good amount of cash flow in those too. But for example, Destin is not golf cart friendly, whereas Miramar is and Panama City Beach is. So that's why those are the two top cash flowing properties or beaches that we see along the coast. And then second would be would be Destin because they don't have as many golf cart friendly areas.
Okay. Okay, cool.
If you don't have a deed to beach access, at least make sure it's golf cart friendly to the beach
Okay. That makes sense.
along the coast.
On the coast. Okay. So you buy it, you live in it for a period of time, you refinance out of a VA loan
Correct.
into a conventional loan.
Yep.
Um, with rates still being friendly. I guess I'm assuming that was probably a few years back. Not in 2022.
Right.
2022 was the death of all rates. I mean, rates doubling in like five months. Um, so that frees up your VA to be able to purchase the next one.
Correct.
With using a VA loan as well.
Correct.
And then when that refinance happens, you have to have a certain amount of equity built in to be able to qualify, right?
Yes.
Which I'm talking to you about it, but like this is my mortgage hat turning on right now. So you have to have 5% equity in your home to be able to do a conventional refinance, as an example.
Right. Right. And we did. Yeah.
So then you buy the next one of the VA loan, and then as you envision 5-10 years, what would be maybe the next step for your journey?
So the next, if we can, we would like to purchase one in Panama City Beach because of purely for investment numbers reasons. You can just get prices aren't as high there as the Santa Rosa, Destin, Miramar area. But the cash flow is still the same. So the next one would probably be in Panama City Beach.
Cool. So then that one, would you be then just doing an outright investment property type of purchase?
Yes.
Okay. And then your typical investment property, depending on the deal, if it's conventional single family, you can get away with 15% down, which is kind of crazy. 20% is your standard for listeners out there.
Unless it's a condo tell.
Unless it's a condo tell. like this is like, the PS of the mortgage. Yep. If it's a condo, look out, gotta be approval. If it's a condo in Florida, okay, all bets are off. It's probably not going to be approvable. You have to have a different product. So I don't know if that's probably for this type of conversation yet. But if you have questions, Jacklyn Hardy, which by the way, where can people find you and get to you if they have questions on real estate in the Panhandle?
So I'm on Facebook and Instagram. If you just Google "Just Call Jack," that is all of my Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff will pop up. So it's at Just Call Jack.
Just Call Jack. Cool. So this year 2023 is a very, very unique year in my opinion, because we just saw one of the craziest things happen in the markets since pretty much 1981. Rates going up so fast, basically rates doubling in 5 or 6 months, inflation going up. And then in July of 2022, now I'm turning on my economic hat. So the CPI rating from because CPI is a 12-month rolling calculation, right? So the June reading comes out in July. July's reading for CPI for June, I think like 9.2%. The monthly reading for June was 1.3%. So all you're doing is you're taking all 12 months of this rolling average and adding them together to get this one CPI reading. So June happens, one of the highest numbers we've seen in a long time. And then July happens. So July's data comes out in August. And July's data was zero, literally zero. You went from 1.3 to zero. And that was the beginning of inflation really starting to kind of cool down and slow down as the rate hikes started to affect the economy. And we've seen that really slow down to, I think December's reading was like negative 0.1. And now we're getting into readings in the sixes. And as some of this data continues to go forward, we roll the clock into, April, May, and then into July. It's very possible inflation could be getting down to closer to what the Fed's target being, which is 2. Maybe we get into the 4s. Who knows? With all that being said, 2022, a crazy year going on. What are you seeing what's the buyer sentiment that you're seeing right now in this current environment in your area?
We are in a little bit of a bubble because we are so heavy vacation rental, short-term rental investments. And we have not seen a slowdown in tourists and guests coming to book vacations here. The rates will have been lowered, like for bookings and whatnot, but the amount of people, we have not seen that big of a slowdown, or people not booking. We still are People are still booking for summertime right now. And so when that changes, people get nervous. But since that hasn't really changed, the only slight difference is people are booking more, not in advance. It's more like today it's open, tomorrow it's not. So they're not planning that far in advance, but they still get booked. That's the biggest difference we're seeing. So because of that, investors, I believe, are recognizing that still, and so we still are very buyer heavy. Sellers, on the other hand, it really would depend on the property because I've seen a lot of sellers accept $100,000 less than list price, unless they're the type of seller who's just upset and that they didn't sell months ago. But other than that, we're still, the things are still going pending. The things that are sitting longer on the market are overpriced. The things that are going like this are because they're reasonably priced.
Have you seen any properties that were purchased in 21, 22, even that are selling right now, and like an idea of the comparison in prices up or down?
So yes, a couple are, and they'll sit for a little bit, or for, like, I would say, so the new average is 45 days, and they'll try to sell for more than what they bought it for, but it ends up going under contract for exactly what they sold it for.
Gotcha. So right now, if I'm an investor and I'm out of state and I'm trying to figure out, well, where am I going to invest either next or my first purchase? And let's say I'm just an average Joe out there. I've got a little extra cash. I want to get into the real estate game. Um, what kind of advice would you give to somebody that was, I really want to be in that area. I love the area. I'd like to be able to go there. What advice would you give to somebody if they're trying to navigate the different areas or the types of properties or whatnot?
So when people come to me and they say, hey, we want to invest along the coast, I try to just kind of get exactly what they're wanting and then what they can do. The biggest thing is price point. So if, say, they can't afford more than 400,000, then what I would do is I share with them the specific condominiums or places that $400,000 for an investment property is available. So I'd say Panama City Beach, and then a couple scattered in the Miramar Destin area. Santa Rosa, I would say no, but and then I would show them the ones that I know for sure make the 10% rule. So if you're going to spend 400,000, it needs to at least gross 40 a year. And then if it did check that box, then I would send that to them. And then if they liked it, I would send them a cash flow sheet. And then in the cash flow sheet, it takes out the property management, which is 20%, the taxes, the HOA fees, and so that you can see net versus gross. And then for a first-time investor, you're like, oh, wow. So even if it says it made all of this much a year, you're really not netting 40K. It would be some of them you are, I guess, depending on the property and price point. But people don't really know that. So the cash flow sheet really, really helps break down all those numbers, and then you can actually see where everything falls into place. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's what I try to help people
Yeah.
find.
Yeah. You mentioned, okay, so if they're at a $400,000 price, then maybe you go into a different location, like a Panama City or a condo, maybe in Myanmar and whatnot. And then obviously the higher price you go, you're going to have more options.
Correct.
It is somebody, because, the numbers are the numbers, right? But then in terms of like feel and like vibe, like any examples of somebody that, like, I want to buy in this place because I like this certain vibe or this certain like situation or the neighborhood, or like what are some of the vibes out there in the different like nooks and crannies, 38, Santa Rosa, Destin, Miramar, all that?
Some people love Rosemary. So the people who love Rosemary Beach, typically aren't looking to necessarily cash flow there. They're looking for home value. So anything along the 30A stretch, it is possible to cash flow there. But most of the time, people are buying there because the values will continue to forever go up there. It's beautiful, it's new, and they continue to build more and more. But some people love Miramar because the whole 98 stretch is golf cart friendly, and you can go to the bar, you can go to restaurants, you can go shopping all on a golf cart, and so that's way cheaper than a rental car. So
Yeah.
that's why we see a lot of more cash flow there because people love that. So and then for Panama City Beach, I would say Thomas Drive and Front Beach Road, golf cart friendly, and it's very busy. But along Pier Park in Panama City Beach is the biggest thing in Panama City. Anything around Pier Park is is what I would suggest if you're looking at Panama City.
Gotcha.
I don't know if I
Gotcha.
answered.
Yeah. And you mentioned cash flow versus appreciation. Like, you know, when I went, I purchased my short-term rental that I got in the beginning of 2021. I didn't really know. I mean, I did all the spreadsheets and all the numbers and tried to do the best I can, calculating, utilities and
Yeah.
property management and taxes and all the stuff, right? Like, it's never going to be perfect.
No.
But the expectations that I had were like, if I could just break even, so
Yes.
I can just somehow break even, I'm okay with that
Right.
because I can use it when I want to, kind of off peak, and then, like you said, the appreciation and
Mhm.
all of that. So like the expectation part of it is just so important to know, what you're going to get into, and you know the cash flow may not be what you want it to be.
Right.
That's just part of the game.
Mhm.
And like I'm thankful because prices has gone up considerably since 21, so like, that's put me into a much better equity position.
Yeah.
Um, but like when I compare it to other parts of the country too, like people, this is kind of like that whole kind of panel is kind of like a hidden treasure that not everybody knows about it. People from New York, they're buying in Miami, they're buying in Fort Lauderdale, they're buying in Sarasota or Naples. Like they don't always know about that area, and
Correct.
people in the Midwest, are more inclined to travel there so that they know it and they know what's going on than
Mhm.
the crazy values that are happening. So, like I think like speaking of Rosemary, that little stretch where you the heart of Rosemary and you go down to the beach. I think you're like walking down like $15 million property, $18 million property, like the very front, like waterfront. It's like,
Yep.
are you kidding me? 20 million, 50. It's just crazy. And then you have Alice Beach, right? Like that whole like white stucco, like everything's like the same.
Magazine.
Yeah, like I forget what the values are, but it's like a 2,000 square foot villa is like what, 8 grand, 8 million, 5 million. I don't
Yes.
know.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
just it's crazy. So you can't, but that just goes to show there's levels and entry points for all kinds of different varieties of people that want to be in the game,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, like the townhouse that you have that's now a short term rental, do you manage it yourself or do you outsource that?
So we do outsource it.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
So some people do want to manage it themselves. I have a lot of clients who do, and they do great at it. It's a time sucker, which is what I do not have. So that is why I outsource it. And we have rental company recommendations for all along the coast.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same page, right? I have no time for that.
Yeah.
So, kind of going back to your journey, right? Like, um, you were a teacher, right? And where are you from again?
So I grew up in Virginia.
So you grew up in Virginia, because you got a 703 number, right? I think.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Sorry. Um, so that's Northern Virginia for anybody out there.
Yes.
Um, and kind of going into the expectations of a household and generating income and employment. And we're going to dig into this, okay? So, like, you came from a religious background, a Baptist
Yep.
upbringing, right?
Yep.
Can we kind of talk about that and kind of how that affected and shaped your journey on this path?
So I grew up very fundamental Baptist. So our high school, everything was at it's in Fairfax, so it's Fairfax Baptist. All the way, like shirts all the way up here, the skirts all the way to the ankle, kind of thing. All my life, and very, very like the man is the head of the house, and the woman supports the man, and all this stuff. Very fundamental. And then after when I went to college, came here to Florida, and I went to a very, 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 very strict college in Pensacola, and it was even worse in the high school. Like boy girl elevators, like no wet hair, no headphones, no movies, no music. I could go into that even more, but 2 months before I graduated, I got kicked out, and the the school wasn't accredited. So I didn't know that because I had just followed this bubble my whole little life. And so when I got kicked out, nobody would accept me because my credits that I just did weren't accredited. So I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do now? So I had to redo my 4 years of college. And that's when that's when I joined the military because I had no way to pay for it. But this other college just took all my money. So yeah. So when they kicked me out, that's when I joined the military. And then they helped pay for my second college. And so I went to the University of West Florida. That's and then yeah, and then after that is history.
Okay. So then, I mean, then you go through all that, right? Like, so the military pays for the majority, I guess, of the schooling, the college, or how does that work?
So I did ROTC. ROTC is a program where I did an SMP ROTC. So it's when you're in the military and you're also in ROTC. So I did reservist and drilled once a month while doing the ROTC program at UWF. And while doing that, they do pay for your college, and then they kind of give you a little stipend to like live. And then I also got the benefits from being actually in the military as the SMP. It's called simultaneous member program. And so you have to get you have to qualify for all those things, but some people just do the ROTC program, which a lot of people did, and then some people can also do both. But I did
Okay.
both.
Okay. And then you get a teaching job after that,
And after that, we moved
making
to Destin.
$20,000 a year.
Yes. And then it got to 30.
Well, the reason why I say that is because at the end of the day, we live in a society that's built with this kind of societal subconscious of go get a job, get a
Yes,
401k, have student loans. And at the end of the day, there's so many people that are in such an amount of debt,
I know.
hundreds of thousands of student loan debt, and you come out and you're not able to live. You're not able to sustain a life with the wages that you were able to earn. So it's just
Bad.
this just crazy kind of dichotomy of just trying to be able to survive. And that's why I really wanted to dig into this with you, because you found real estate, or maybe real estate found you. I don't really know exactly how that happened, but it's
Yeah,
worked out well for you. I mean, you're a rock star at what you do, and you do well on social media and all this stuff. And yeah, at the end of the day, like there's just a lot of people out there that are struggling to be able to get ahead and pay bills. And at the same time, though, there are a lot of people who are doing things creatively to be able to generate income online or social media or side hustles, or building a consulting business on the side. Like there's a lot of different very examples of what people are doing. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do on this channel, is to be able to show examples of what people are doing to be able to get ahead, because it's so tough for a lot of people. I think there's a ton of stats out there about the number of people who don't have $1,000 or $500 saved if an emergency comes up, right? Like
right,
50%, whatever the percentage, it's a big number.
right.
So you have the societal subconscious that's out there of how we're supposed to do things. And it's like, well, at the end of the day, like the people that are getting ahead are doing things outside the box to be able to get ahead. They're not following the normal metrics of what society kind of deems as being the way to do it, and um, that also means like having to get outside your comfort zone and spend more time doing stuff, or spending your time making 1,000 phone calls in like 4 hours, like Jacklyn did. But it's like doing the things that nobody wants to do can propel you to be able to get ahead when you
Yes.
fast forward the clock.
Yep.
So don't want to go down a rabbit hole there. Um, But thank you for sharing kind of that background on the military side of things and how that was able to support things. So like if somebody were going to go down that path and get into the military and use that to be able to kind of, help get more education, like any more words of advice or wisdom that you have for somebody that maybe kind of going to go to go down that path or learn more about that world.
Um, I the military is not for everyone, and Lord knows I've had all the training and stuff they put you through is something else, but every branch is different. I chose Army because my dad is Army, but as almost went Air Force, and Air Force also has a lot of options. I would say though, for college purposes, um, and if you're looking to go in the military route, if you have a degree, you're an officer. So I was able to be an officer, and you get paid more when you're an officer because you have a degree. So and they have a lot of programs that even like PA, like you can be a doctor, you can be a dentist, and the military will pay for it all. And so I had zero debt when I graduated, zero.
That's
So
crazy.
and they also paid for my master's degree. And there's only a couple states that will pay for your master's degree, which is why I drilled in North Carolina. And so I literally flew to North Carolina once a month from Florida. Um,
Wow.
and only because they were paying for my master's degree. But now I have a master's degree. I don't use it, but but I mean it has it for you. So that there's so many options the military has for you. Um, I when I first joined, my recruiter didn't tell me everything. So definitely ask questions to people who are actually in the military. Definitely you can ask me. I'll tell you anything Army related. But I would say it's definitely a good option for future. And then of course like TRICARE. I mean, it's awesome. So
TRICARE. That's
sorry,
the
TRICARE is the health insurance that you get.
okay. Cool.
So yeah.
The being an officer and having a degree, right, and then getting paid more. So the ROTC piece of it was the part that was helping you get your degree while also in the SMP, or what's the order of operations to be able to get your degree and then come out as an officer? Like, how does it all work?
First, it's boot camp, and then you do boot camp.
Uh-huh.
And then if you decide to go the ROTC route, it's only in a college setting. So you have to go to a college that has an ROTC program. There's ROTC for Navy, Army, and Air Force. So the one that I went to, University of West Florida, had Air Force and Army. And so I joined the ROTC program through UWF. And then because I had already went to boot camp, that's why I could qualify, and your score on the ASVAB. So an ASVAB is the military test that you have to pass in order to be into the military. And then that is what qualified me to be the SMP. And then if you're not going to do that SMP, you can just go to unless things have changed, you can just go to the ROTC boot camp. But if you go to like the military's boot camp, that's why I qualified for the SMP. And then the ROTC is a 2, 3, or 4 year program for college. So I did the 3 year because they accepted like a trickle of things from my first college. And
Basket weaving 101, was that one of them? No.
yes. um and then when you graduate your ROTC program, you're an officer in your branch. And then you have to pick like what type of officer that you are. I picked medical services. So I'm a medical services officer, nothing to do with education or real estate. But so I went to the medical services officer training after you graduate college. And then but you can pick anything. Some people went criminal justice. You can go. There's so many things. But for the officer school, so you can after that, then after that you just do your duty. Some people went full-time military, and some people just went part-time, like me.
Cool. So there's definitely programs out there, but I think your biggest advice is find somebody that's already done it and ask
Yes,
questions so you can get the cliff notes of what to do, what not to do, right?
yes. Yes.
So same question on becoming a real estate agent. Like what piece of advice would you have for somebody right now in this market that's thinking, I'm going to get into real estate because they see people making money, which is, it's like the end result looking like so easy. People making it look very easy, but it's not. So like, what's your word of advice?
Truth be told, we have a lot of new agents who just joined our brokerage and they're asking me this question like 24/7. um, it is a lot of work and I never knew the amount of work, but I think just because of my background and I weirdly like working, um, that's why I'm able to, but it's not a 9 to 5. It is a 24/48 every single day, including midnight kind of job. And so I think if you're for the advice is just go into that knowing that, because if you're not willing to work all the time, then you're not gonna make it.
Another question for you. What percentage of, so I know you mentioned you work with a lot of investors, right? So they're already in the investment side of the game.
Yes.
When you look at the last 3, 4 years of kind of your journey, the people that were buying their first home, their first primary residence, what percentage of people, maybe you don't know this answer, but what percentage of those people do you think were purchasing with the intention of building a portfolio like you did intentionally? What percentage of people have that on their mind?
It's a good question. Yeah, I for me, it was a lot of older, like more wanting to retire for the people who are looking for primary homes. For the younger crowd, I always try to mention that to them because I want to open up their ideas to that. Um, I don't know. I would probably say 50/50.
Really? I mean,
Because I think people
that's
are open
more,
to it,
yeah.
but they don't know if they can or want to learn more about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I've said out loud here and other places is like the first house is hard to do, right? Like it's your first one, you don't know where to go, don't know what to do. All the terms are a foreign language, all the acronyms, APR, DTI, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. But the second one, I believe for many cases is the hardest one because you have this home that you have a payment on and there's hopefully equity that's in there. And, for the average person going back 50 years, most people just sell their house and they buy the new one, right? You get the
Right.
equity out of it, good to go, qualify on the new one. And there's just more and more people that are going down this path of wanting to be able to purchase the next one and hold on their previous property and turn it into a rental and have it long term and have it paid off and have passive income. And so we're having more conversations about that. But then the ins and outs of being able to actually get there and do it takes a lot of planning. And well, how do
Yes.
you have money for the down payment? How do you qualify in DTI? And um, that's the part that I think it's just such an interesting thing. And like on this channel, we talk about side hustles and how are people being able to generate more income and get ahead. And like at the end of the day, when we're talking to somebody, like I tell this story all the time about somebody that we helped with building their portfolio over a period of time, and they just bought their fourth house last year. And when we started working with this person, they were making about $40,000 a year, which is cool. But they were saving no money because there was nothing to cut. Or like their life, car, you know, rent, whatever. And for this person, they were only able to get, the momentum going for them by finding another place, another opportunity, a second job to be able to generate more income, plow it into savings, and then start to make things happen. So I just think it's just such an interesting conversation because things are so hard right now for a lot of people. But if you can figure out the formula to get into the game, the skills that you utilize and the traits and the experiences and contexts that you can make by getting into the game that otherwise is so hard for so many people, they translate to all these other things if you kind of fast forward the clock over years. So that's some of the things that we're talking about on this channel more and more. And that's why
Yeah.
I just love talking about this stuff, right? This process. What's someone's journey? Because everyone's journey is going to be a little bit different how they get in the game. But once you get in the game, like, could you imagine not buying another property
No.
in the rest of your life? Right? Like once you get in the game, like
I
I
can't think of
it's like yeah, it's like these pink yogurt covered pretzels. Like I got one of them and I can't put them down.
it.
Like, I think I ate like 2 bags in like the last like 4 days. Like, they're just addicting, right? Like, I mean, and like for me, I've been in the game since basically 2013 is when I bought my second property. And the thing that changed the way that I look at all this stuff, like from a just the most impactful way, is knowing and actually utilizing a cost segregation strategy for my own taxes, this accelerated depreciation type of thing. And for people like you as a realtor, like there's really no barrier to entry to do it. If you have your real estate license and you're a real estate professional, you can do it.
Yeah.
If you're someone like that's like me, I'm in a different industry, so to speak. I have to qualify in terms of hours and just the number of properties, and it's a different level of qualifying. But then, like you're talking about, pretty much having the ability to wipe out the majority of your taxable income on your W two job that you otherwise have limits of what you can deduct. So like that to me was like my turning point. Like, oh my god, like so if I keep buying properties, I can continue to do this. Like that was like my pink yogurt pretzel. Like I want more of them. I want more. I'll do anything I can to figure out how to get more of them. Like
Yeah.
so. Um, for 2023, what are some of the things that you have on your horizon and visions and goals, or what do you see happening in 2023 for you and your business?
I want to, well, my goal is to double what I did last year.
I, I
So
I know you're not a numbers person, so I'm not even going to ask you what the number is. I just know you're going to double it. Okay, got it.
I'm really, really not a numbers person. Um, yeah, anyway, but I know that I'm really trying to do more investment properties, and then personally, I want more listings. So I have listings now, but I've been so buyer heavy. It's harder for me to have time to even go try to get listings, but trying to get listings too. Um, and then that's probably that's about it.
So this time next year, we'll be talking about how you doubled your
Yes.
units. Cool. So in our business, right, like there's only so much time in the day, and it's a day that sometimes can be all day, like literally phone calls, emails, texts, whatever, all days, all times of the day and night. What is something that you've learned in your journey that's enabled you to be able to find more time or save more time or be more efficient with the way that you run your business?
I think so. I had our little man in last year, 2022, January. And so having a little one, I'm sure as everybody knows with kids, is life changing. And so I the me being the person who wants to work like like all the time and nonstop has been an insane learning curve because you kids can't do that when you have a baby. So I would say the biggest thing that I've done for myself is like automated stuff and then prioritize things. Um, if I, for example, if I know people want to be updated about the market or they updated with listings or cash flows or whatever, what I try to do is at night I'll make those cash flows and then have them be sent out the next day or whatever. That will help me the next day to still answer their questions. But if I can't do it at that exact time, then at least they still can get their questions answered with the cash flow sheet. Um, and then of course prioritizing. So if I need to make sure that I make all these calls no matter what before I go to bed, even if it's late, I do it. And then and people have said, like, do you ever like stop working? You're calling me at 7 o'clock at night. And I said, I'm sorry, you were on my list today and I gotta call you. But they appreciate the hustle. So I mean, I'll like grudgingly dial it, but they're never like mad that I do it.
No, that's awesome. I know we're running up on time here. I don't want to keep you from your busy day and your sick baby. I know your baby's not feeling great. So any other words of wisdom or advice you would give to somebody, aspiring entrepreneur, business owner, real estate, any other advice you give?
To not give up. I would say to not give up. It took. I mean, I didn't sell my first one was land, and it was only like $15,000, and that was my very first sale. And so, but I wanted to give up even because I was teaching, and I was like, see, I'm glad I didn't stop teaching. But like and then I would say to not give up and to not be afraid of going all in because I regret not going all in sooner.
Gotcha. I mean, like, so the age old question of what would I have told myself 10 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever. Like I talk about that a little bit on this channel too. It's like whatever I would have told myself, I probably wouldn't have listened. Right. Like
Yeah.
I'm in my moment in my mindset at that time, at that age, like would I have listened? I have no idea. I mean, like, same question to you. Like if you go back to June of 19 and your boss, your broker's like, it's time right now. Is there any part of your body, your bones, your brain that would have been like ready at that point to do it?
I think yes. I think I would have, but I was so like pulled to not to be I was scared to not have a set salary, to not to going into something I did not know. All I knew was teaching. All I knew was education. And I knew nothing about real estate. All I knew is that there was a promise of being great. So I think that if I had I would tell my younger self to have gone go for it.
So if you're telling yourself to go for it, would you have listened to yourself at that point in time?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, and there's no way to know, right? But like that's kind of why I asked the question, right? Is because sometimes you just have to do the work.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you get presented with a question or a situation or an opportunity that, hey, well, if you do this, close, but how many deals by December? Let's do this. So that person had the foresight to see this person is busting their tail, working hard and doing well.
Yeah.
She would be much better served to help herself and other people by doing this full time. So
Yes.
that person saw something in you. It
Yep.
was an opportunity, and then you did the work, and
Yep.
the rest is history, right? So like
Yes.
sometimes the work and the failure is just part of the process.
Yep. Yes, you're right. You're right.
So there's no shortcuts sometimes, right? Like sometimes you just
Yep.
there's no shortcuts.
Yep.
Cool. Any other advice? I'm sorry, one more thing. Any other advice you would give to a working mom? Because
Ooh.
us dudes, no matter how much we want to say we get it, are never gonna get it, right? So
Um,
putting you on the spot. You don't have to answer. It's okay. You don't have to
I
answer.
I don't know. I would just I would say to not give up on yourself. I don't know. It's been one of the hardest years I could ever imagine doing both. But so I would say to forgive yourself because sometimes I had like him on one hip and a phone call on the other, and then he'd just be like talking, and the other person would be like, "What is that?" But they understand. I'd say to just give yourself grace because people get it, and I've never had anybody be like, "Okay, I'm not going to work with you because you have a kid or whatever." Or because you didn't respond to me like that second. It's I would say to give yourself grace and just to do the best that you can and continue to do that.
I love it because there's the end of the tunnel, right? There's a light at the end of the tunnel. You get a little further along, things get a little easier, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have two 3-year-old boys and they're crazy right now. I'm looking for that light at the end tunnel right now. I'm looking for it. I'm waiting for it. But yeah, yeah, we went to the dentist yesterday and one of them is a little bit further behind in terms of just language and speech and whatever, and just like
Oh,
lost his stuff and like it was like, okay. And then when we like he just like one boy was in the chair doing amazing, like a rock star, just hanging out, watching his iPad with mom's holding it, whatever, and the other one just wants to sprint to the door. Like
happy
literally, like I was holding it, and he just got out, sprinted to the door, and like they have this like the motion sensor thing. So he runs up, motion senses the door, opens the door, goes out, and like I tripped like going around the corner, so he got ahead of me, and then like I was doing that for like 30 minutes, and then like he goes into the chair, does his thing, the fluoride killed him. He wanted to get it out of his mouth, and then we were done, and he cried the entire time. Then we were done and got out. Then he wanted to go back in. Like he was like sprinting to go out before he got to the parking lot. And then when we were done, he wanted to go back in. Like he was gonna like pick a fight with the doctor or the dentist. Like, he wanted to like pick a fight with somebody. This is a 3-year-old kid trying to pick a fight with a dentist. Like
Oh my
some kids are
gosh.
just wacky. But anyway,
You can,
I love it. So give yourself grace.
yeah.
Ask for help. Ask for help.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. We could probably have another episode about this at a future
Yes.
day. But I don't want to hold you up. Thank you so much for making time out of your busy day. It was great talking to you, learning more about your journey. and have to have maybe do it again 2024. Talk about maybe you triple your goal. Maybe you triple your goal. Who knows?
Yeah.
Um, but thanks again, Jacklyn, and talk soon.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.